Hi, everyone. Welcome to the next edition of the What's Your Why podcast. I'm Erin Canan. I'm the Vice President for Civic Engagement here at Bard College. I'm also part of the Civic Engagement Initiative for the Open Society University Network with 47 partners. And we are joined here today by Todd, who's in the sciences. And we're going to learn a little bit about the work that he does here and talk a little bit about what motivates him. Welcome, Rob.
Absolutely. Thank you so much for having me. It's a real honor to get to be on your podcast today.
Thank you. So can you tell us a little bit, can you introduce yourself and tell us a little bit about what you do here at Bard?
Absolutely. So as Erin said, my name is Todd. I am a visiting assistant professor in the biology program here at Bard, and I am also the assistant director of the citizen science program here at Bard, the mandatory requirement for all students to really engage with their own science literacy and to really understand how science impacts your life. So I'm very involved with the sciences here at Bard and love getting students involved, even if they don't consider themselves a quote unquote science person.
That's right. We're all science people, right? I think that's what we found out these last couple of years.
Yes, I think it is what we found out in a very unfortunate way, but that science really does impact all of our lives daily, whether we realize it or not.
Right. Or acknowledge it, I guess.
Yeah, yeah, absolutely.
So Rob, tell me a little bit about how your work on science literacy, sort of focused on, as you said, in the sciences, but how does that align with some of the civic engagement work that we're doing here at Bard?
Absolutely. So one of the big things that I always think is very, very important to remember is that science does not happen in a vacuum. Science is a shared endeavor by all of humanity. And so really getting people involved in the sciences, whether it be in the lab doing research or just out and about talking about science, understanding how science works, the process of science, is really important. And as you said, these past couple of years have been really, really telling about how science and science communication within communities is so vitally important, not only to protecting ourselves, but the communities that we are a part of. So being able to go out into the community to teach science, not only just how it works, but really going into how it impacts our lives is really, really important for understanding how we as a society really work.
Yeah, I agree with you. I think Science Outreach was one of the first programs that we had when we started the Center for Civic Engagement back in 2012. And we were focused on anybody at Bard could be on the team to go out and teach science to senior citizens, to local kids, and that work had been integrated into the citizen science program. So some students can actually work with 8th graders, right?
Yeah, absolutely. So we just actually on Monday had a field trip come to campus. One of our local schools brought their 8th grade class to campus, and we did a fun day of science where students were able to really get their hands dirty with some activities revolving around water treatment, water filtration, as well as climate change. So allowing them to really experience some of these big topics that they've probably heard about in the past, but may not have gotten hands-on experience with. So we love doing that kind of work with the community, specifically talking about science literacy.
Yeah, so for all those prospective students out there who might be wondering where they could fit in, even if they are maybe science isn't going to be a primary focus of their academic course of study, it's still, we have art students involved, we have historians, we have political scientists, we have all kinds of folks involved on the team, and it's really exciting to have a really diverse group of folks with different lenses coming to do this together.
And that's what I really, really love about Bard, is that we have students who consider themselves the stereotypical scientists or science studiers. But in reality, the Bard student body is so multifaceted that oftentimes you'll have someone working in a lab in the morning and then they'll be practicing for their piano recital or working on their art in the afternoon. And I think that combination of both what we consider as the hard sciences versus the humanities, we realize here at Bard that they're not opposite ends of the spectrum, but they're actually very, very similar in that they work best in conjunction with one another. So I love when I have students that will take complex science topics like gene editing or predation in smaller populations of endangered animals, and they put their own little lens on it, a spin, and they make a piece of art or they make a piece of music that is really designed to communicate these important topics to the community. So that's what I think Bard really excels at, is allowing students to play in this realm where they can wear more than one hat. And that diversity is so vitally important, not only for science, but for just growth in general as a lifelong learner.
That's amazing. So Rob, I have to get to the question of the podcast.
Yeah, absolutely.
It's time for that. So tell me, Rob, what is your why? What motivates you to act on behalf of your community?
Yeah, so this actually, I was thinking about this on my drive in this morning about what is my why? And I think this actually stems back to when I was younger. My parents always told me that education is the one thing that no one can ever take away from you, that it is inherently who you are, who you become, and how you move through this world. And I realized at a younger age that education is not necessarily equal across all walks of life. And so one of the big things that drove me to go into the field of education, and specifically science education, is really trying to help communities that have been marginalized really interact and get to know some of the science around them so that they can better protect themselves. In the event of something like the pandemic, how do we find information? Who do we know to trust? How do we know that the science is progressing, that it's reliable? That's what really drives me, is giving people the power to understand the world around them and to make educated decisions that are best for them in that particular situation.
Amazing. Yeah, I think there's so many ways in which BARD is working towards access to education locally, nationally, and internationally. And I think that the sciences play a large part of that, and those access points for all kinds of reasons are really critical.
Absolutely. And I mean, this goes to, again, Bard's outreach capacity, where, again, we just had a local middle school come for a day, but just last year, actually a year ago right now, I was sitting in a refugee camp in northern Kenya, teaching around 90 students about science literacy in a refugee camp and letting them really kind of dive into these topics as well. So being able to go out into these communities to teach, to give experience, and then really allow them to take ownership of their education is so important. And I think it's just such a strong aspect of a BARD education.
Yeah, and I would say that our focus is also on collaboration and learning ourselves. And so we learn so much when
we're
not just focused on a sort of traditional model and in the sciences. And I think we're a better place because of the kinds of access points that we have to community connections and listening to our community partners and really identifying where the issues are and how to be a collaborator and really listen.
Absolutely. And as I said, science doesn't happen in a vacuum. So the more diverse voices we hear in science, the better the science inherently is. And so really trying to foster those relationships to allow as many voices into the room as possible should always be a goal of science and other academic programs as well. So yes, diversity is really key in generating successful, good science.
So that's a call for all those artists out there to sign up for science as soon as they get here.
Absolutely. Yes. We would love to have you in our classes and doing some of our activities.
That's right. So thank you so much for joining us today, Rob. It's been a pleasure. Really, really wonderful. And we look forward to more middle school students on campus teaching us about science.
Absolutely. We're already getting ready for the next batch.
Amazing. All right. Have a good day.
Hey, thank you so much, Erin.